Just one quick question, if I can, about back in the day. What's your best memory of the early days?
Well, I think just being, young and free, it was just a simpler time. A simpler time, but, when you're young, you don't, you know what I mean? You don't have the responsibilities. And with Heathen, we used to get together like, 4 or 5 days a week and rehearse in the early days, just trying to get things going. And we worked our ass off. And, we were able to get a record deal within a year. Once we got the demo going and got it out there, we didn't even shop it. We just started like into the tape trading ordeal. So people were getting our demo all over the world. And then, we had a few labels come at us, and then we began,
You only had a reasonably short hiatus, 8 years or so, but had the music scene changed much in that time? Did you ever come back together and think, oh shit, we're doing it this way now? Was there ever that situation?
Actually, the whole metal thing is it's grown. When we first put the band back together and started working towards writing stuff for the Evolution of Chaos, it was really building and opening up, and new bands were coming out, and some of the old bands were coming out with new records and even better than before. And so I don't know if it's changed so much. I'm sure it has in certain aspects, but everybody's been staying busy doing something. So we've been just sort of riding, the wave that's happening, and then we just haven't been off that wave really. Even though Heathen has been a little bit on hiatus, Lee and Cragen were doing, Exodus duty, so they were touring, and Jason Vibrooks, who's no longer with us, was, jumped on the whole Exorder thing, so he was doing it, and I was doing a couple local projects. So, I just think that things were steady, and it's a good market now, except for now with the pandemic.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Now, you're just about to come out with your first album in like 10 years, so clearly you're not a band that rushes things. Now, I'm not judging here, but why so long?
Well, I was just talking about that. I mean, it really had to do with opportunities that were coming Exodus's way, and because Lee's doing double duty, with Heathen and then Exodus, when Gary had to go in and take over for Jeff Henneman, they asked Cragen to come in and help out in Gary's absence, and he's like the guy that could do it. He's such a great guitar player, so they didn't really miss a beat. I mean, it's definitely different without Gary, but that train kept going, and it was at the expense of Heathen, which was very frustrating for me, but it also gave me just time to family time, that kind of stuff. So I appreciate it when I like being busy, but I also like not being busy, but that's that is what took so long, is that we just sort of had to wait till things slowed down for Exodus.
Has there ever been a time when you've toured together and he's been able to play with both bands on the same night?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did the Thrash Classic tour with them. We shared a bus with them. It was with Sepultura. And then we did a tour with them in the summer. And I believe it was 3 tours that we did with them, but it might have been 2. It seems like it was 3. But we get along very well because we've known each other forever.
Has he ever started playing the wrong song on stage?
No. That would be funny. What we've always done is tried to on the bigger tours, like with the Thrash Classic, it was Sepultura and Exodus, where it was like a co-headlining tour. And then we brought Destruction on, and also Mortal Sin, I believe, was...
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Mortal Sin was on that, and they opened the tour, and then us, and then Destruction, and then Exodus kind of thing. And that way, Lee had a chance to sort of decompress after playing a set with us. And then, so he's not doing back to back. He never came out and started playing Bonded by Blood or anything like that. That'd be funny.
It would be funny. Let's talk about the new Heathen album just about to come out. With the current situation, how did this affect the recording of this album? Or was it wrapped up and then just had to mix it during the lockdown? What's the deal?
Well, we had it wrapped up, and all the recording was done before the end of the year. And then the mixing was done probably somewhere in February, I believe. So it was all wrapped up. It was all wrapped up, and we had already, had booked 10 weeks, or actually 11 weeks of touring that was going to start in the spring. And then March came, and Gary had actually rejoined with Exodus because Slayer's farewell tour was over. So they did the Bay Area Strikes Back tour with Testament and Death Angel and Exodus, and they went to Europe in the beginning of the year. And then this COVID-19 was hitting Europe and of course, China and South Korea, and it was just beginning over here in the States. And those guys they had to cancel a couple shows. And then they came back, and I think 10 people on that tour tested positive for the virus, and Will Carroll ended up in the ICU for quite some time, and was even on a ventilator in an induced coma. They got out of there by the skin of their teeth, and that's when things kind of that dark cloud came over everything. Our record was actually slated to be released in June 19th, I believe. But actually the factory was affected where they make the records and CDs, so it got postponed. I mean, it bought us some time, to where we could stretch it out, and, September will be the release date. But even at September, we don't know when things will be better to where we can actually get out and promote the record live.
With talking to people like myself, what has risen to the top of favourite tracks from people? I'll give you my 2 cents, and that's A Fine Red Mist and Blood to Be Let.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites right there. Blood to Be Let is one of my favorites. I think in the beginning I was kind of like, and as we laid down the recording and the different layers of it, it was like, wow, this one's going to be really, really good. I wanted to put that song out first. That was my vote. And I had an idea for like a cool, crazy video for that, And Cragen's like, well, the label really wants to put out The Blight, and they think that that's a good thrasher. And so I was like, okay, but you should listen to me. What I think is strong. But everybody, there's 5 of us, and we all have to agree. And then the label has their ideas on how things should go too. And we do care about what they think. And we've gotten a great response to The Blight. The Thin Red Mist is playing in the background on a little sort of trailer thing that Cragen and I did, which gives everybody a little taste of it. And then next Friday, another song will drop. Is going to be the title track is going Empire of the Blind. That video and song will drop next Friday. We have another lyric video coming out. Yeah, and it's pretty cool. It's a sneak peek of it in the first album trailer. There's where it's like a crushed kind of city. Everything's in red, and it's very much like the album cover. But that's the vision in this lyric video that'll be coming out.
It's coming out September now. Where to from here?
Well, really, this is one of those types of things, like with what's going on in the world with this pandemic. Really just looking forward to Friday and seeing what the reaction is to the next song, and then preparing for the record to drop, which will have another surprise with the release of the record. And then from there, I don't know, because everything's so uncertain. We definitely are already making plans for next summer for our tours and festivals and things like that. But that's all depends on whether or not we can clean this up.
One last question. What's the funniest thing that's happened on tour?
Well, I can tell you a funny thing that this was years ago, and it wasn't a tour, but it was a festival that we played, and we played Vakken. This was in 2002, I believe, and this is when Yaz was alive, our bass player Mikey Skrimsky, and we played, had a great show. But the way they booked us and everything with the flights, we had to catch an early flight the very next day. And like the flight was at 7 a.m. So we had to get back to the hotel. And we had a shuttle call at 4 a.m. So everybody's like, we're trying to get back, and I'm trying to convince Lee, like, we got to all go together. And Lee's like, I'm not going. Udo's playing last, and I don't want to miss the show. I don't want to miss it. And I'm like, we're all leaving. We're all going, And I was pretty pissed because it's like, I want to see Udo too, but like we got a shuttle call at 4 a.m. So anyway, he's like, I'll take a cab. So we all left and went back to the hotel, and of course nobody really slept. And then the guy shows up at 4, and Lee's still not there. And then he pulls up as everybody has their stuff out. Lee pulls up, and he's like, oh, it was great. Udo played all except. And they opened up with Fast as a Shark. And I was like, fuck you, And so we go to the airport, and Yaz, he was a pretty heavy partier and drinker. And he looked like death warmed over at the airport. And he was like laying all over the couches and everything. And we could hear mumblings around the staff, like, oh, these guys are drunk. And we were with Exodus, too, because they played the festival. And so we're like, uh-oh, we could hear the rumblings. They're not going to let us fly because we're looking bad. So I said, I went up to Yaz. I'm like, dude, you need to go, like, wash up, clean up, go comb your hair, wash your face, whatever, you look like shit. And he's like, fuck you, okay, So he goes away, and I'm sitting with some of the Exodus guys, and here comes this guy in a suit. And he looks at us, and he's like, hey, guys. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, don't think I'm going to let you fly in my airplane today. And we're like, what? And he's like, you guys have been drinking. We can't have you guys. And we're like, no. We were at a festival. Everybody's, we've been here since, 5 o'clock in the morning. We drove here, we're okay. And, And he's like, and we had him pretty convinced. And then Yaz comes and he walks up, and he had wet his hair back and walked up to the guy and got right up into the guy's face and said, am I the man in question? And the guy just looked. The guy just looked at him. And he's like, yes, you are. and of course he reeked of alcohol. And he's like, and I'm like, we got it. He's fine. He hasn't drank since last night, blah, blah. And he's like, well, you got to get this guy some coffee, man. Get him something to eat. And so I took him to get something, and me and him got in a big argument. And they, we get on the plane, and they banned him from drinking. And he was sitting next to Lee across from me, and he was pouting over there in the seat. And he's like, party's over. And Lee's like, no, it's not. And he ordered, the little vodkas, and he gave them to Yaz. And Yaz got a big smile. And right at that same time, I didn't know what was going on. I just looked over, and he looked at me, and he waved those bottles in my face like, fuck you. And I was like, yeah, I want to kill him right now. Anyway, that's my story.
Excellent. I thought for a minute he was going to throw up on the guy in the suit, but anyway.
No. But it was funny because, of course, I'm pissed, and because, we got in a big argument, and then we flew. And then actually we got to New York, and they had actually, in Germany, they kept his passport and his ID. He didn't even realize it.
Right.
So he got stuck at customs in New York. And I remember walking out, and I looked back at him, and I was like, "Fuck you, you asshole! Good luck. I hope they keep you here, you know." But they let him go, and then we're flying back, and as we're flying back, I realize, you know, I am super pissed, and I realized it's like I actually, his car is at Lee's, and I drove with him, so he's driving me home, so I have to sit in the car with them the whole way.
Wow.
You know, but we actually, it was good because on the way back, we just laughed about the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
So it was good. He was fucking crazy, man, that guy.
All right. Hey, Dave, I reckon we should wrap it up.
All right.
David, thanks so much for talking to me. Best of luck with your new album, Empire of the Blind, coming out September 18. Thanks for chatting to me. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you. You as well.